everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And we are really excited today. We are talking about the last two episodes of season 2 of the regular season of season 2 of All Creatures Great and Small. It's our favorite show that nobody's talking about. And I am film critic Rachel Wagner, and Michelle's here.
Hey everyone.
How's it going?
Yeah, good. I was telling Rachel that I might be a bit confused this week because I'd watched the episodes the wrong way around. Yeah, I'd, I, I was watching it and I was like, this feels very finale-y. It feels very like, and I was like, I'm sure that the parents visited in the last episode, and by that point I was like over halfway through, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going back to. Yeah, I'll just finish the episode. I watched them the wrong way round, and Rachel will keep me right.
That's funny. You're like, your notes are getting very confused. What's going
Yeah, I
on?
was like, why is there no tension between Siegfried and Tristan? Like they were they were in tears the previous episode, and now everything's fine. And it was yeah, didn't help watch the episodes really early in the morning. So yeah, I blame that. Staying up late and waking up early.
Yeah. Well, I'm very curious uh, as a citizen of the United Kingdom, what your perspective is on all this cricket drama.
Yeah, yeah. I've never ever and will never watch a cricket game, match. I mean, kudos to this episode of trying to make it like exciting.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I still had no clue what was going on. It feels
Well,
like
it's like
I don't know. It
baseball,
feels like
kind of. Is that
kind of,
right?
yeah, like baseball kind of like it's so confusing.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I like get glimpses of it on TV because we have like the Ashes and there's other sort of um big tournaments and things that they have on TV here, and it's so confusing, and it's something that I don't care enough to
Uh-huh.
learn the rules of. And it also
Uh-huh.
just seems, I think my issue with it is it seems very slow. It's
Uh-huh.
very such a slow paced sport.
Yeah.
So each match is just feels like an eternity.
Yeah.
Um, and I find that as well sometimes. Like I love baseball movies. I
Mm-hmm.
love them. Like this, like that is just such
It's
a
such a
like
cinematic sport, which
yeah,
it's
it's a
it's really
cinematic
funny.
sport, but again, every time I've tried to watch a baseball game, I'm like, this is so boring.
Yeah.
This is so slow paced. Why does it keep stopping
Michelle,
football?
I don't
Like,
know. I mean, you've never seen a game of cricket, and you've never eaten haggis. Like, what kind of Scots were you?
well, cricket's more English, so
Okay.
that is definitely more English sport than it is. So yeah, and
Yeah.
haggis, I feel like I've got my defenders with the haggis thing.
I mean, I have no desire to eat it, so I don't blame you.
Loves it. Yeah, I can't. I can't.
Yeah. The only thing I've ever seen with cricket was that $1 Million Arm, the Disney
Yeah,
movie.
again, very good movie, very exciting movie. It makes
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, it feels like also just like something like Friday Night Lights makes football look so exciting to me. American football looks so exciting.
Yeah.
Again, anytime I've tried to watch it, I'm just like, yeah, no, not for me. Yeah, the only sport I watch um is tennis, kind of all year round,
Oh yeah.
and then figure skating I try to keep up
Hmm.
with.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's just such a stained sport now for me. Like all
Yeah.
of the sort of scandals with all of
Yeah.
the doping and all of the sort of craziness that's happening with some of the Russian coaches. It's just tainted it in a way. So it's sort of hard to enjoy it as much as I did.
Hmm. Hmm.
A lot of sports I'll fans during the Olympics. I mean, I will watch baseball, I will softball, things like that. I'll
Hmm.
watch. There's just that added sort of um I don't know, it feels like the stakes are so much higher during the Olympics. So I will
Hmm.
sort of watch them. But yeah, sometimes like keeping up with those sports all year round is not something that I'm sort of a big
I think pretty much any sport is much better in person than on television. I
yeah, I
just
mean the first time I saw tennis, in person. I mean, I was in the
Hmm.
cheap seats, and it was still like the most exciting way that I've ever seen
Yeah.
tennis. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I've never been to a tennis match, but I've been to volleyball. Like
Mhm.
my college was very good at volleyball. And we won national championships multiple times when I was there. A lot of the professional players on not the beach volleyball, but the regular volleyball are from Utah randomly. I don't even know why, but anyway, we were really good at volleyball for a while. Um, and we had the men's volleyball Olympics coach was I think from BYU for a long time. So anyway, so I've been to a lot of volleyball games, but I had never been to tennis. But they used to have this thing called the All Sports Pass, which you could get as a student, and it gave you tickets to every single football game, and you could get into any non-playoff uh, game, other sports game with the pass. It was great. It was only like at the time it was like $75. It was no brainer. And even though I'm not that big into sports, it was just like when you're in college, you just look for stuff to do. Like
Mhm.
it doesn't even matter like really what it is. Like you're just let's go do something. And at least that's the way I was. And so we had so much fun with that. Going to soccer games, and there's nothing more boring. I'm sorry, all you soccer fans, football fans. Soccer's rough.
I don't find, yeah. Again, it's not. I don't watch football much. I don't really have a team that I follow or
Hmm.
anything.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it's just because it's such a big thing that it just sort of I've never really
Yeah.
had much interest in it.
Hmm.
I feel like for me, probably the sort of popular Scottish sort of investment in team that I have is probably the Scottish rugby team.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's an exciting sport to watch.
Do
Um,
have you watched him Red, White, and Royal Blue yet?
yeah, yeah.
And he learns the difference between rugby and football. That was a great line. Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind the scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/hallmarkies. Let's talk about The Last Man In, episode 5. And it's when a familiar face from Helen's past returns to Derby, James worries that he has to vie for her attention and steps up to compete against them at Mrs. Pumphrey's annual cricket match. The rest of Skeldale House are apprehensive as the game can be brutal. Siegfried tries his best to train James and get a reluctant Tristan to step in, but it's not looking good for their Derby 11 team. So the reason why, because Tristan loves cricket, but he doesn't want to participate because the team is supposed to be just of farmers and vets. And he's like, I'm neither. So poor guy.
Yeah, he's really making Siegfried suffer. And also this would give sort of Siegfried some sort of, because they've not won in such a long time. And so Sigurd really wants to win, and so I think that's another reason Tristan's just like, yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, I'm not gonna not gonna help him out.
Yeah. Well, he's just trying to poke Siegfried where it hurts most. in the cricket match. Because he's very competitive. Siegfried's very competitive. And we also get Hugh calls up James to work on Monty the Bull and put the ring in. And I don't really understand. I didn't have time to look it up. Is there like a utilitarian purpose for this ring, or is it just like...
Yeah, we need to look that up because it's another thing that I was thinking of, like, is this really necessary?
Yeah, because I mean, I would be terrified. It got more guts than I do, that's for sure.
Yeah, and also, like, is there like a purpose? I have no
Yeah,
idea. I'm
yeah.
literally,
I'm just seeing if there's... It says that... Oh, I found it. Here we go. That nose rings are used to control bulls and occasionally cows and help wean young cattle. By preventing suckling. Nose rings are used on pigs to discourage rooting. Some nose rings are installed. Let's see here. Okay. Holy cow. I can't even imagine doing that to a pig. That would be horrible. Pigs can be mean. Okay, so there is actually a utilitarian purpose used to control bulls and occasionally cows.
okay.
It says calf weaning nose rings are anti-suckling devices.
Yeah,
So
keep
there
them
you
away
go.
from, yeah. Oh well, learn
Now
something
we
every
know.
day. Still looked super painful though.
It really did. I was like, wow.
Yeah, I loved like they were like, yeah, we don't need anesthetic, and James is like, yeah, you do.
Well, and you could just tell that he was giving him the toughest case possible, that giving him the hardest one and making sure that it was him who did it. And there's just some definite revenge going on here.
Mm-hmm.
He knows
Yeah, yeah.
what's
But I did
happening.
like the fact that although Hugh was sort of needling James a little bit, that they
Mm-hmm.
didn't go like full villain with Hugh.
Yeah.
I do like the fact that he is just, a guy that just kind of got his feelings hurt and is obviously feeling a little competitive and um sort of poking the bear a little bit. But
Yeah.
yeah, ultimately, like a good guy who still cares about Helen is probably a little bit annoyed that Helen is realizes when he realizes that Helen was right, that they weren't right for each other. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I do like the fact that they didn't make
Yeah.
him a villain, especially considering the fact that he's just known to everybody as Neville from Harry Potter. Like
Right.
we can't have him be a bad guy.
Well, I'm confused though. I just kept calling him the clock guy. Who is this guy? What is his name? Do you remember? No, the clock guy for that keeps flirting with Mrs. Hall. What's his
Uh,
name?
what is his name?
I just wrote down clock guy.
Okay.
I'm like, I probably should know his name, but I don't even see him on the IMDb. I don't know who he is.
Oh, he looks totally different, and that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Will Thorpe, so he plays Gerald Hammond. Um, yeah, he looks so different in his IMDb picture.
Oh
Like,
my gosh. Yeah, you're right.
yeah, like he look.
Gerald. Okay. His name's Gerald.
I don't want to swear, but he looks totally different.
He
He
really
looks
does
like
look so different.
looks like a tough guy. He looks
Yeah.
he looks like the villain in an action movie.
That's crazy. Huh. He really does.
Yeah, it's crazy what wardrobe and a hat will do.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I do like their little dynamic though. It's pretty cute.
Yeah, I do like it, and it also like I kind of I feel like they're still being a little bit too mysterious with Miss Hall. Like we're getting a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of information about her husband, a little bit of information about her son. But yeah, I feel like the mysterious thing is sort of worn off a little bit, and
Mm.
yeah, I would like them to sort of get into her hesitation of, you know, starting another relationship or I
Mm-hmm.
guess the relationship with her husband and her son is still sort of hanging over her.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's still a little unclear what's going on. And uh but it's always fun in these kind of shows when you get this like slow build up, just like little kind of flirting here and there. That's especially in side characters that can be fun. And we all find out that she evidently she's pretty good with the cricket, at least as far as the scoring. She's going to be
Yeah,
like a Rafa score.
yeah, I like that because we've seen her sort of listen to cricket with Tristan before.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like the way that it sort of weaved it in the
Mm-hmm.
whole season.
Yeah. And so we have Mrs. Pumphrey is having the cricket match at her place, but also she's very concerned about Tricky.
Yeah.
She tells Siegfried that this is a matter that requires the utmost discretion.
Yeah, yeah, and don't shame him, like don't embarrass him.
Basically, he's less lethargic but more a Lothario. and and so Siegfried says, that should uh they should uh operate on um Tricky. And
Yeah, get him
Mrs.
neutered. Yeah.
Yeah, and Mrs. Pumphrey is very struggling with that idea. But
Yeah.
he
I feel like yeah, it's such a like a modern thing of like of course you would get your dog neutered. Like if you're not gonna breed your dog, you would get him neutered.
Mhm.
But yeah, back then it was like they were stripping the dog of something or like they
Yeah.
were yeah, and there was all these sort of I don't even know if they're like proven of like it changes your dog's personality, they gain weight, they like there was all of these different things of like reasons why you shouldn't get it done.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's her worry, is that it will change them.
mhm,
And so she's struggling with the idea. And at the end it's really funny when she just lets him go off with his love.
yeah, yeah. The guy that owns is it a terrier?
Mhm.
He's not too bothered. He's quite happy with it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess when you have tons of land like that, and I mean, having more animals really isn't like as big of a problem as as it is, if you're in the city and stuff. But if you then, having a dog that has puppies is not as big a deal as
Hmm.
it would be now when you have a farm.
Yeah. Hmm.
But but it was cute. It was funny. And see Siegfried's the response to all of it was very cute. It was very
Yeah.
funny.
I like that Siegfried is sort of taking over from James as Tricky's sort of the go-to vet for Tricky.
Yeah.
Um,
So we have that Hugh goes and visits Helen and the family, and there's obviously some awkwardness there. And she's worried that he's not going to renew
mhm,
their lease, because out of spite. But not only does he renew the lease, he adds Helena and Jenny to the lease. They weren't on the name of on the lease before. And he gives them this bull that James was ringing earlier in the episode. And so that's kind of an interesting dynamic.
mhm.
Do you think that he's really trying to help them, or do you think that this is a way of him kind of showing, like, showing off his wealth, and what do you think is his motivation for doing this?
I think if it was any other show, I would be suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think this show has that type of agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that he is, obviously they were sort of raised together, but in under very different sort of um circumstances. And he probably doesn't really know how to move through the world and apologize and take accountability, and like in a way that he isn't just sort of using his wealth to do that. So he probably doesn't realize that to Helen and to her dad and to even Jenny, of like, they've always paid their own way.
Mhm.
But he obviously doesn't view money in the way that they do. So it's probably his way of like, this is an easy fix. Like, this can be my apology, for what happened with the previous bill, as opposed
Mhm.
to them probably just preferring him to apologize and that be enough.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, he's definitely someone who's into sort of grand gestures, as opposed to doing the hard work. He's always all about the shortcuts. But yeah,
Mhm.
I don't think this show has any bad intent, um, with a
Yeah.
character like him. But yeah, if it was another show, I would be a little bit suspicious, but not with this one.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Well, but it's Helen who actually apologizes.
Hmm.
And she says, I never wanted to hurt you. I just knew I wouldn't make you happy.
Hmm.
And then he says, I think a part of me knew it wasn't right. And then she says, maybe one day we can be pals again.
Yeah.
That was sweet.
Yeah. That's when you sort of realize, if they did grow up together, and yeah, this is something that they
Hmm.
might never, recover from.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would struggle with,
Hmm.
I think you at least need time. Then
Yeah.
maybe, especially once you're both in other relationships, then maybe I think you could do it more successfully.
Yeah. I
But
think it's just different, the fact that the whole town saw it happen,
yeah,
like
that's
in real
true.
time. Like,
That's
he was
true.
literally left at the altar in front of like his entire family, and
Hmm.
you know, a room full of people that he grew up with and saw him grow up.
Hmm. Yeah, I did low. I loved, so he basically like cheek kisses her, nothing amorous. And and then but James sees it and he's like, what? Which I really liked. That was good. He's like, wait. That was really good.
Today's episode of the podcast is sponsored by W Rated, the podcast where we willingly watch the world's worst rated movies. Join me, Daisy,
and me, Claire, as we break down the IMDb Bottom 100, choosing a different film from the list every episode.
We take a deep dive into the plot, production, release, and reviews, usually with a special guest, to uncover if these films are truly as bad as everyone says they are.
You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Good Pods, and anywhere else you find your podcasts.
I also thought it was a sweet part of this episode with Tristan and Siegfried talking about their father.
Hmm.
And when he finds out that when Siegfried finds out that their father used to watch Tristan play, you can tell he's kind of jealous of that, because that was not a
Yeah.
relationship that he had with his dad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting, because I think he's probably more focused on what he did, for Tristan, as he sort of raised them.
Mm-hmm.
Um and as in, I wonder how big the age gap is between them. Because you do sort of hear that, of like, when there's only a couple of siblings and they have like such a big age gap, like their upbringing
Mm-hmm.
with their relationship with their parents is so different from each other.
Yeah.
Um
Well, I can speak to that in my family, because my parents kind of had two batches of kids. Like we joke that you always burn the first batch. You gotta try again. and I'm in the older batch, and the younger kids, we joke that we got their youth and they got their money. Which is, there's some truth to that. Uh, but they there's definitely, I mean, how could you not be a different parent
mhm.
in your 40s versus your 20s? Of course you are. But but yeah, so sometimes we'd see that and be like, wait, you let him get away with that? Okay, with murder. My parents were not, like, at least in my faith, they were pretty casual. Like, my parents were not super strict parents, thankfully, because that would not have gone well with me. I was very independent, and so there wasn't like huge differences, but like little things that we would we would notice. We're like, "Hey, wait a minute." But yeah, you see that, and I mean, my mom especially was just more involved in the younger kids than they were able to be with me, because she was pregnant and or had a little one. She had a baby when I was a freshman in high school, and
Mhm.
so that pretty much took over everything for my high school years. And then when I started college, she also had a baby. So uh, and so it was just a different experience. Like, she was so involved in my sister Anna's plays and other activities, and she just wasn't able to do that with me.
Mhm.
So so that was probably the biggest difference between. So I can see how Siegfried sort of feels, seeing and then learning this about, especially, I mean, if their fathers passed away,
Yeah.
hearing that I can understand how he's feeling.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like
Mhm.
that's mainly where it comes from. Um, but yeah,
Mhm.
it was an interesting moment. I do like the fact that they sort of make these references back.
Mhm.
Because yeah, this show is sort of one of those shows that sort of starts in the middle, and you sort of get fed all of the information um throughout the episodes.
Yeah.
And yeah, luckily the writing is so good in this one.
Uh-huh. One thing I was a little confused of is that Hugh seemed to be hitting a lot of players.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like a normal thing in cricket? To
Not
be
that I've
hitting?
seen. Yeah, maybe the rules are a bit more lenient in Derby.
I was just, is he just really bad? Or what's going on? He hit a number of players,
Yeah,
and
and I feel like it was so targeted at James because he knew that he was hurt from the bull. Uh,
yeah, but he even hit that. There was another player that he hit. Like,
yeah,
it
yeah,
seemed
that
like,
one was a weird one because it looked like it hit him in the hip, and then the next shot he had like bleeding from the nose.
mm-hmm. Like, what's going on? And but then yeah, it comes down to Hugh versus James, and James has had to be trained on cricket, and I did laugh when he's like reading that book
Hmm.
on cricket. Like, I don't think that'll help you that much.
Yeah, yeah, I
That's
don't think
funny.
playing one game means that you're an experienced cricket player.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe the rules are that easy.
Well, whatever it was, it converted Gerald, I guess his name is, clock guy. It converted him to the sport. He's a fan now, which is
Hmm.
funny. Uh, and yeah, and so James gets hit by the ball, and then he gets struck out,
Hmm.
or whatever they call it in cricket. Um, and it says it's almost like you deliberately stepped away from the play.
Yeah, so he sort of has to um guard the literally forgetting what they're called. But yeah, he literally has to guard and he sort of doesn't. He sort of
Mm-hmm.
steps away.
Yeah.
Um yeah, I feel like he sort of realized at that point you needed the win more than him. Even if it cost, them a draw, which is what they were pretty much aiming for. I love the fact that they weren't even like trying to win. They were like, we'll take a draw.
Right.
That's as good as a win.
They also we have Margot's at the match, and so Tristan's excited to see her at first, and then he sees her kissing another man.
What's Hugh?
So, it was Hugh?
It was Hugh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't even notice that part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why she was so weird with Helen the whole episode.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I didn't notice that it was Hugh.
I'm pretty sure
Well,
it was
there we
Hugh, yeah.
go.
The love interest, like, goal for me anyway.
And then Siegfried says to Tristan the old man would be proud. That is very sweet. It's very, very sweet. And then Siegfried says, I don't remember Pa ever visiting me at school. Yeah. And then he finally apologizes for not telling him about the test score.
Yeah.
And it is cute. Tristan's like, can we get this recorded? You're apologizing. And so now Tristan has to decide what he's going to do. If he's going to go back to school, what is he going to do?
Yeah, he just has one exam to pass.
Mhm.
So I doubt he would have to go for like an entire, year of college. I feel like it would maybe just be like a semester, if that.
Yeah. Maybe there's some kind of like prep class, sort of test class thing that he could do. I don't know. But yeah, I wouldn't think it would, especially if he was probably pretty close to passing if he passed the other ones.
Yeah, I feel like it
And
was maybe it had the percentage on it. And I
Mhm.
feel like it was something like it wasn't like crazy, like a crazy fail. If I remember right, I think it was something like 75% or something like that.
Yeah. So there we go. This was a really cute episode. Charming episode, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a very good episode and a great show.
All right. Well, let's talk about the episode 6, Home Truths. And this is as Chamberlain heads to meet with Hitler in Munich, James prepares to face his parents and give them some difficult news. Meanwhile, the prospect of a return to war acts as a timely reminder to make the most of life while you can. But James's agenda is derailed by an emergency with the Aldersons' pregnant mare, Candy. This episode, it's so good.
It's perfect. It's so good. Yeah, I was welling up watching this whole episode.
I mean, I had to text you. I was like, oh, it's so good.
Yeah, it's a close to perfect episode of TV, and it's got all of the feels, and it's just like everything about it's perfect. And I think that the writing of Helen and James is so spot on. It's so perfect. Like there's a moment in this episode where she's like stop the car and gets out, and you're like, oh God, what's going to happen? And it's just like it's solved immediately. They're just written so well. And they just prove again and again that you don't need big, massive sort of conflict to make a relationship work, a long-term relationship work on TV. That it can be these sort of small conflicts. It can be conversations. It can be what this show does. But yeah, it was so good.
Yeah, this is a writer named Ben Van Stone is his name, and he has done 13 episodes of the show. It's a lot of them, and he's incredible, very talented. Because you're right. Just you don't need like the couple to like break up or have some like huge you all the conflict in this whole episode is basically, is he going to take the job? There's a little bit of conflict with that. And is he romantic? What a better conflict than that for a romantic show.
Yeah.
Is really,
it's also like this entire episode, we know he's not, that he's chosen to stay here in Derby. And it's just who knows and who doesn't know at this point. Like he's so bad at like making a decision.
Yeah. Well, so his parents still think that he's going, and they're coming to visit. And I if there was anything that was I guess surprising, is that his parents wouldn't even stay the night. That they would be so upset by this that they would leave immediately at the end. That seems a little hard to believe, but yeah, I mean, they were really, I guess, hard set on him coming back. And
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
It's tough. It's tough for him to tell them.
Yeah. And the fact that his mum is so like attached to him. And this is sort of the first time that he's been away, and the fact that he's decided to build his life outside of Glasgow is, devastating to her. Especially when on paper he's sort of been handed this perfect job that's
Right.
going to set him up for life, and
It's so modern.
and I think on some level a little bit of like it could help them as well, because we know that they are struggling financially, but
yeah. Well, we start out with James and Helen going to the movies, and this was just such a cool movie house, old fashioned movie house, and it was just a really neat set piece, especially to see the old newsreel.
Yeah, that's how
Howard
people got
Chamberlain.
their sort of visual news,
Mhm.
it's all radio, so yeah.
That was
But I do love
cool.
the fact that they're all waiting outside because there's not somebody there to physically like put the film in, and like, they're all
Mhm.
waiting on the actual guy to come in and feed the film into the projectors, and yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. That was cool. And then Siegfried tells James, "Well, what are you doing? You should just get married."
Mhm.
And he's like, "What? I don't even have my own house. I don't have my own." And but it starts him thinking, and you can feel that, which is really cute.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose like long-term dating wasn't really a thing back
Mhm.
in these days.
Yeah.
But also I do understand the fact that James is like he's at the very beginning of his career. He lives in a home with several other people. What exactly has he got to sort of offer?
Mhm.
I feel like that would be a big part of his sort of insecurity.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the fact that like we know as an audience that Helen wouldn't care.
Mhm. Yeah. And so then we have Mrs. Dalby calling, and he goes back there, and she has more sick cows. This woman can't catch a break. Tough.
Yeah, I loved that they brought her back though. I forgot that she was in another episode.
Mhm.
Also just want to apologize if anybody can hear like excessive panting. My dog is having a bit of a heat wave and he's not coping well. He's like panting in my ear constant. But yeah, I do like the fact that they brought her back and gave her a little bit of a happy ending. As happy as it can be, the fact that she's having to sort of rebuild her life, but the fact that she made is sort of it confirmed and sort of helped by the fact that she made the right decision by not selling up.
Mhm. Well, at first she says that maybe I should have listened to you. And but then we get this arc through the course of the episode. And then there's this whole very sweet plot line with Tristan helping Mrs. Donovan, the peddler, I guess you'd say. Her dog gets hit, and they try to save the dog. It can't be saved. And that whole thing I thought was very well done.
Yeah, and I like the fact that it shows another part of the community within Derby. And yeah, the fact that Tristan, it helps him realize that being a vet is his calling as well. And the
Well,
fact
and
that
It shows
He's-
there's a thoughtfulness to Tristan as a character that first he noticed the other dog. The other dog needs help. Noticed things about Mrs. Donovan, and is like the way that he brings in this other dog is very thoughtful,
Yeah, and the
in a
fact
way.
he cares about the person as well as the animal as well. Like
Mhm.
he's very invested in all of it. Like, just shows how far he's come and how much he's grown.
Yeah. Yeah. And he says, that the animals welcome, people tolerated, which is good. And then we have Mrs. Donovan saying dogs don't judge you.
Hmm.
And I thought that was a very I thought she was a very sweet character, very well done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Of
And
good
so
enough
then,
he's good enough to realize what Tristan has done, but not actually call him out on it.
yeah, exactly. And then Helen says that you never struck me as the romantic type.
Hmm.
And so James is kind of offended by that, which I liked. And he says, the worst thing to happen is if you'd say no if I asked you to marry me.
Hmm.
And he says, I'm not afraid to say it. I want to spend the rest of my life with you here in the Dales. And she says, I'm not afraid either, which was really good.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, then she gets out of the car, and it was so good. Oh my gosh.
It was perfect, and it was
Yeah.
just like this beautiful moment, and then just like this hilarious moment of like the realization that he hasn't like asked her dad, he hasn't followed
Mhm.
the he
Yeah.
hasn't followed the sort of archaic sort of rules of like getting permission before he asked.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really funny.
It was very, very, very cute. And so then they're working on this horse. The uterus is twisted, and again, how they do these scenes, it's just unbelievable. I don't know
Yeah.
how they make it look so real, and it's just amazing. And so he calls Siegfried, and then both Siegfried and Tristan go out to help,
Mhm.
and he's able to save the day, untwist it. But the reason why he needs the help is because you have to
Yeah.
while he's in there, you have to turn the
Yeah,
animal,
so
which
he
helps
has yeah,
untwist it.
yeah. So he has to like hold on to the hoofs while they turn the horse. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Wow. Again,
Yeah,
how
I
do
hope like I hope they've figured out a better way of doing it at this point.
well, I wonder, do they not have cesareans? Is that not like a thing with animals like a horse?
I imagine it is, but yeah, I don't know if that's like the best solution for this animal of like
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I don't even know, what could you do? I mean, maybe there's some kind of medicine or something that could loosen it now or something. Who knows?
Mhm.
But yeah, it was very well done. I mean, it felt like real. Like, I don't know how you do these scenes. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and this one was not the most graphic, but definitely fairly graphic in terms of like showing
Yeah.
us the ins and outs of it.
Yep. But when they deliver the full, I mean, that's got to be an amazing experience. I mean, not only to see a new life, come to the world, but to have the way the foals pretty much immediately start walking, I think is incredible. That's got to be
Yeah, it's foals and like
unbelievable.
giraffes, they just like immediately they're up on their feet. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's unbelievable. And so after this is when James asks Helen's dad,
Hmm.
and it was great. You better come up to the house, lad.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been waiting on this moment.
And then he basically gets him drunk, which was funny. He's like, "Oh, I don't drink much. Have another."
Yeah, every time he's like, no, that's fine. It's like another couple of shots.
Yeah. But it was very sweet because then Helen's dad gives him her mom's ring. It was
Yeah.
very sweet.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if Hugh had the ring, but it seems like not. Seems
Yeah,
like
it
he
doesn't
didn't
seem
give
like
Hugh
it.
the ring.
No. And that doesn't feel like a ring that Hugh would give.
Oh yeah, I feel like he wouldn't want to. He'd want to spend the money
Mm-hmm.
on the fanciest ring he could find.
Yeah. And so it was very sweet. And then James' parents come for the visit.
Mm.
And then his mom tells Siegfried that James is leaving, and everybody is concerned. But then they show up, and he has just proposed
Mhm.
to Helen. And he introduces, here's mom, here's Helen, my fiance.
Yeah, yeah. His mom is. I
Best.
feel so bad for his mom. Like everybody knows that he's not going apart from like his mom.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not like that people had long phone calls and stuff like that back then.
Yeah, and it
You'd
feels
have
like something
letters
he
and
would want to
stuff.
do. Yeah, we want to do that in
Mhm.
person as well.
Yeah. It turns out that the cows and Mrs. Dalby's, they just have a copper deficiency. So James can tell them there's nothing wrong with her cows. Yay.
Yeah, she deserves a break at this point.
Yeah, exactly. And so James has to tell his family that he's not moving. I love it here. It's this place and those hills. And
Mhm.
then he says he's made such a difference to so many people since he's arrived. It's not the practice, it's the people. I love this place. It's my home now. And then Helen says, "You should be proud of him." I certainly am. I love him with all my heart.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And yeah, I love that of like, and again, I just felt bad for his mom, just like,
His mom's crying. And but then they both say, Helen and James say, they love you. I love you. And then we get a toast to peace and Mr. Chamberlain. And of course, we all know that's not going to happen. And so there is that kind of undercurrent through the whole episode of like hope, but we all know that what's coming. So that kind of creates a tension to what would others be just total happiness. And
yeah.
yeah.
I like the way that it's sort of woven in throughout the whole sort of show, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really well done. Very well done. And then yeah, his parents leave. And I was just kind of like, you wouldn't even stay the night? That seemed a little crazy to me, but I guess that's who they are. And they're just
Yeah, they want to
crying.
get back to Glasgow as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then Tristan says he's going to go back to college. So great end to a great season. And yeah, beautiful. So let us know if you're listening what you think of these two episodes. We'd love to hear thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter. And Michelle, where can people find you?
On Twitter at Michelle R. Benson.
And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. Also, make sure that you are following the podcast, Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast. We are actually gearing up for Christmas. We will be covering it before you know it. So make sure that you are locked into everything Hallmarkies Podcast. The next couple months are going to be really fun. And of course, we will finish up. We'll be covering season 3, All Creatures Great and Small. And so if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps us a lot. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group, which is a lot of fun, and our merch store. So check that out. And thanks so much. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye, everyone.